At a concert, my girlfriend hopped onto her male best friend's shoulders while laughing. "You're taller way better than my boyfriend," she announced. The crowd erupted in cheers. I simply walked away. By the next morning, she realized she'd lost far more than just me. Have you ever had one of those moments when everything suddenly falls silent? The entire world narrows down to a single point, and you see it with absolute unfiltered clarity, exactly for what it truly is? For me, that moment struck last Friday night, right in the middle of a deafening sea of thousands of screaming fans. And what I saw with chilling certainty was the definitive end of my relationship. Let me break it down. My name is Leo. I'm 33 years old. I own a gym. My life revolves around discipline, strength, and cutting out all the nonsense. I don't have patience for games or theatrics. My girlfriend Maya, we'd been together for 2 years, is the complete opposite. She thrives on games. She manufactures drama because she believes it makes her seem more interesting. For a while, I assumed that was just her personality, but I gradually came to understand it was a conscious choice, a choice to be selfish and disrespectful. The central problem was a guy named Eric Her, so-called male best friend, the brother figure. I'm not naive. I notice how he looks at her, the lingering glances, the constant touching of her arm, her back. About 6 months ago, I laid everything on the table. We had a massive argument about him. I made it clear I wouldn't be the kind of man who sits quietly while pretending not to see what's happening right in front of him. I gave her a clear ultimatum. Either cut the nonsense and create serious distance between them, or our relationship was over. She broke down crying, swore up and down that he was just a friend, and promised she'd pull back, that our relationship was her top priority. For a while, she actually followed through. The late-night texts stopped. He wasn't showing up at every single dinner. I allowed myself to believe we'd genuinely turned a corner. Then came last Friday's concert. It was for her favorite band. I worked hard to get tickets spent, far more than I should have, because I wanted to do something special for us. It was meant to be our night, a real date. But the moment we passed through the gates, the first person I spotted was him. Eric standing there with that smug, self-satisfied grin plastered across his face. My stomach dropped. What the hell is he doing here? I didn't even try to mask the sharpness in my tone. Maya instantly went on the defensive. "Oh my God, Leo, don't start. He got a ticket from a friend. It's a total coincidence." I just stared at her. Then I turned and locked eyes with him. The look he shot back, a small, triumphant smirk, told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't coincidence. It was orchestrated. She had lied to me. She had broken the one promise I'd declared non-negotiable. "Right," I said. Just that single word. I should have walked out then and there. But I'd paid for the tickets, and I was determined to see the band. So I decided I'd simply act as if they weren't even there. A foolish plan, I admit. But Maya and Eric clearly had other intentions. They were glued together, whispering, laughing at countless inside jokes I wasn't part of. She was performing, putting on a show, and I was just the invisible guy in the background, the driver, not the date. When the headliner took the stage, the crowd surged forward. Maya immediately started complaining that she couldn't see. Given her height, that was probably true. "Leo, let me get on your shoulders," she said casually, as if nothing were amiss. "You know I have a bad back." I suggested we just shift to the side a bit for a better view. She gave me a 5-second pout, then pivoted to Eric with a bright fake smile. Eric will do it. He's strong." In an instant, he dropped into a crouch, and she climbed onto his shoulders. The crowd around us, mostly drunk, rowdy kids, started cheering. She was basking in the attention, playing to the audience, fully immersed in her main character fantasy. Then she looked down at me. Because he's a few inches taller, she was literally looking down from above. She let out a loud, grating laugh and shouted loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, "See? You're taller. Way better than my boyfriend." The crowd roared with approval. They thought it was hilarious. Eric just stood there, staring at me with that same smug, infuriating expression. He'd won. And that's when everything went silent for me. The music, the noise, the chaos, All of it faded into nothing. All that remained was a cold, crystal-clear realization. This was it. The final boundary had been crossed. I didn't get angry. I didn't raise my voice. I just looked up at her. This woman I once believed I loved, making a spectacle of me while perched on another man's shoulders. And I smiled, because I was finally done. I turned and walked away. I didn't have to push through the crowd. It was as if they sensed the intensity radiating off me and instinctively parted. I never glanced back. I stepped out of that venue into the cool night air and felt nothing but pure, unburdened relief. They were so absorbed in their little victory that they likely didn't even notice I'd left. Update 1. The taxi ride home was the most peaceful 45 minutes I'd experienced in a long time. My mind was completely clear. No more second-guessing. No more wondering if I was the unreasonable one. I knew exactly what needed to be done. I returned to my apartment, my name on the lease, my furniture, my space, just after 10 p.m. The first thing I did was slide the deadbolt into place. Then I headed straight to our bedroom and began packing her belongings. I wasn't reckless or destructive. I used her own high-end luggage. I packed everything in the closet, the bathroom, every last item. By midnight, it was as if she'd never lived there. Just a neat row of suitcases lined up by the front door. I knew they'd eventually come back, probably drunk and expecting me to have cooled off. So I sat on the couch, turned on a game, and waited. Around 2:30 a.m., I heard them stumbling toward the door, laughing. Her key scraped in the lock, then hit the deadbolt. Confusion. Then came the banging. "Leo, let me in! The door's stuck!" she yelled. I didn't budge. I just watched them on the doorbell camera. Eric, trying to play the tough guy, rammed his shoulder into the door and bounced right off like a push fool. It was almost comical. Finally, she called my phone. I answered. "Leo, what the hell is wrong with the door?" "Nothing's wrong with it," I said. "It's locked." "Well, unlock it." "No." A pause. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, you don't live here anymore, Maya? You found someone way better. So go live with him. Your bags are packed. Have a nice life." I could hear Eric shouting in the background. She started stammering. "You're breaking up with me over a joke? You broke up with us the moment you lied to my face and brought him to the concert," I replied. "Everything after that was just you confirming my decision in front of a few thousand witnesses. We're done." I hung up and blocked both their numbers. The banging and yelling continued. Eventually, I walked to the door and called through it. "Hey, Maya, tell the Mion Durer to go easy on my door before he sprains something. You'll need him to carry your bags." They finally gave up and left. I watched them disappear on the camera. It felt good. The next morning, I moved her luggage into the hallway of the building. I used a messaging app to send an anonymous text to her phone. "Your things are in the hall." Then I went to the gym. When I returned, the suitcases were gone. The peace didn't last. By Monday, the smear campaign had begun. I was recast as the villain, the jealous, controlling boyfriend who couldn't take a joke. According to her version, I'd abandoned her at a concert and then, in a violent, unhinged rage, thrown her out of her own home. The story spread like wildfire through our social circle. I received a few texts from people who bought into her narrative. I deleted them without reply. My true friends, the ones who actually know me, called to check in. I told them the facts plainly, without embellishment or drama. They understood. As for the rest, I didn't care. If they were gullible enough to believe her fairy tale, they weren't people worth keeping in my life. I knew they'd escalate. I especially knew Eric wouldn't let it go. His ego was far too inflated. So I waited. I knew they'd come looking for another confrontation. They found me the following Saturday, exactly 1 week after the concert. I was in my building's parking garage, prepping to load new weights into my truck. They pulled up and blocked me in. Maya stepped out crying. Eric climbed out looking for a fight. "Leo, we need to talk," she said. "No, we don't," I replied, not even glancing their way. Eric stepped forward. "Hey, she's talking to you. You're going to show her some respect." I finally turned to face him. "This has nothing to do with you. Back off." I'm not going anywhere, he said, crowding into my personal space, trying to use his height to intimidate me. It didn't work. You humiliated her? You're going to apologize. I actually laughed in his face. Apologize? Get out of my way, Eric. I tried to walk past him, and he shoved me hard in the chest, knocking me back a step. Apologize, he demanded again. That was it. All the disrespect, the lies, the smirking. It all converged in that instant. He laid hands on me, made it physical. When he shoved me a second time, my body reacted on instinct. I've trained my entire life. It was one punch, a short, straight right hand. It connected cleanly with his jaw, and he collapsed like a puppet with its strings cut. He was unconscious before he hit the ground. Maya screamed, "Oh my God, you monster! I'm calling the cops." Go ahead, I said, shaking out my hand. When they arrive, I'll show them the garage security footage proving your boyfriend assaulted me first. Let's see who they believe. She froze, phone in hand. She looked at Eric, groaning on the concrete. She looked at me, standing there, utterly composed. And in her eyes, I saw the first flicker of something that looked a lot like fear. Update 2. The knockout changed everything. It wasn't about winning a fight, it was about ending one. Maya, tears streaming down her face, managed to drag a dazed and bleeding Eric into his car. They sped off without another word. The threat of security footage and an assault charge was the one thing her drama couldn't overcome. Of course, news of the punch spread, but without context, their version lacked traction. My real friends knew the truth, and anyone who'd witnessed her behavior at the concert had a pretty good idea of what led to that moment. Their attempt to paint me as the unhinged villain fizzled out. After all, it's hard to call someone a monster when you were publicly mocking and humiliating him just days earlier. A week later, the begging began. She started texting me from her friends' phones, long, rambling apologies. It was a mistake. I'd had too much to drink. Eric was just a friend. The usual excuses. I blocked every new number as it appeared. Then she showed up at my gym. I was mid-session with a client. She walked in looking pale and hollow like a ghost. I excused myself, told my client to take 5, and escorted her outside. You can't be here, I said. Leo, please, she pleaded. I made the biggest mistake of my life. I know that now. Good, I replied. Then you understand why we have nothing to discuss. But I love you. I'll do anything. I told Eric I can't see him anymore. It's too late, I said, turning to go back inside. No, wait! She grabbed my arm. We can fix this. I know we can. There's just one thing. I knew it was coming. Behind the tears, I could still see that same entitled arrogance. What? I asked. She took a breath. I'll come back. I'll do whatever you want. But first, you have to apologize to Eric. You really hurt him, and it wasn't his fault. He was just defending me. If you just tell him you're sorry, we can move past all this. I stared at her for a full 10 seconds. I thought my brain had short-circuited. The sheer, staggering delusion of it. She wanted me to apologize to the man she'd emotionally cheated with, the same man who helped her humiliate me and then physically attacked me. It was so absurd, it was almost impressive. I started laughing, a deep, guttural laugh that I couldn't control. I laughed so hard I had to lean against the wall for support. What's so funny? She demanded, confused and angry. You are, I finally gasped, wiping a tear from my eye. Do you honestly still believe you have any say in this? Do you really think you're the prize? I straightened up and looked her dead in the eyes. Get out of here, Maya. Don't ever come back. We are done. And no, I will not be apologizing to your boyfriend. I walked back into my gym and locked the door behind me. Final update. It's been 6 months. Not a single word from her since that day. The mention of a potential restraining order was the one message that finally pierced her thick skull. From what I've heard through the few mutual friends I still speak to, her life has spiraled into chaos. She and Eric tried to make a go of it, but their entire dynamic was built on him being the thrilling alternative to me. Once I was out of the picture, they had no rebellion left to fuel their connection, and they imploded. They had a huge public blowout at a bar, and that was the end of their so-called relationship. Eric's reputation took a serious hit. The story of him getting knocked out after being caught cozying up to his best friend's girlfriend turned him into a local punchline. His tough guy persona was exposed as a farce. I heard he even needed a couple of dental crowns, definitely not cheap. Maya ended up moving back in with her parents. Without me subsidizing her lifestyle, she couldn't afford her apartment. She landed a dull office job, and, from what I'm told, complains about it constantly. She went from being the life of every party to just another person trapped in a cubicle. The ultimate irony. I saw her a few weeks ago. I was on a date with someone new at a restaurant, and Maya was our waitress. The moment she saw me, her face went completely pale. She immediately told her manager she felt sick and left. My date asked what that was all about. I just smiled and said, "It's a long story." And it is a long story, but it's one that's finally over. The best revenge wasn't the punch or locking her out or any of it. It was simply refusing to play a role in her drama anymore. I stepped off the stage and handed her and Eric the spotlight they so desperately craved. And like most bad actors, they flopped. They lost more than just a boyfriend that night. They lost their audience. And for people like them, that's a fate worse than